Please rise as we welcome Her Royal Highness, Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden. And now we welcome to the stage Her Royal Highness, Crown Princess Victoria.
Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First, I'd like to congratulate Japan for receiving not only one Nobel Prize this year, but two so far. Incredible. And the laureate in physiology or medicine, Shimon Sakaguchi, is of course a professor at the Osaka University. So congratulations once again. The achievement highlights Japan's strong tradition of science and innovation. This, which has also been reflected here at the Expo of 2025 in Osaka. Since April, this World Exhibition has provided an important platform for Sweden to strengthen the bilateral ties with Japan. I want to thank our Japanese hosts for successfully organizing the Expo, bringing together partners committed to sustainable growth and innovation. In May, my father, His Majesty the King, attended the National Day for Sweden here at the Expo, together with the largest Swedish business delegation ever to visit Japan. During the last 6 months, sustainability and innovation have been the underlying theme for all Sweden's activities here at the Expo. Ending with the Sustainability Summit is no coincidence. It underlines our long-term cooperation with Japan and the Kansai region. A lasting memory from this Expo is the commitment to nature as portrayed in the Japanese pavilion, which I had the opportunity to visit earlier today. And then the conviction that technology will help us overcome many of the challenges that we are facing. I was also encouraged to meet Japanese students at the UN Pavilion and to see their work related to the sustainability goals. Their commitment gave me hope. It gave me hope, but it also reminds us that the next generation expects action from us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Japan has a rich tradition of living in harmony with its landscapes and seascapes. And I understand that your language even has words for this relationship, Satoyama and Sato. Beautiful. What has been inspiring to me is seeing the industry taking the lead in making positive changes. One such example is CBOS, which I have been able to follow closely. CBOS is an industry coalition initiated by Swedish scientists with the aim of helping seafood companies become leaders in ocean stewardship. It is truly inspiring to see what we can achieve when we collaborate and bring together diverse expertise in goal-oriented efforts to strengthen ocean health. Japanese companies have certainly been a positive driving force, contributing to meaningful change. Together with companies in Sibos, they've reduced CO2 emissions, lowered antibiotic use, and even shared sensitive data with scientists. Just as Sibos demonstrates how science and industry can join forces to achieve sustainability, Sweden's green transition is built on the same foundation: collaboration, innovation, and a commitment to both people and the planet. Our industry is making significant investments in fossil-free production, and global demand for these products is growing rapidly. Two examples of Swedish companies committing to being part of the green transition here in Japan are AstraZeneca and Tetra Pak. AstraZeneca is striving to achieve net zero emissions in the healthcare sector, while Tetra Pak has been working closely with Japanese local governments on packaging recycling. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of our two countries share a respect for nature and a commitment to fact-based innovation. Together, we have the potential to be global leaders in building a sustainable future. Each of you gathered here at the Sweden-Japan Sustainability Summit is part of that journey. And your leadership today and in the future has never been more important. So thank you for being here.
Please welcome our moderator for the day, Märta Renberg.
Your Royal Highness, thank you for these beautiful opening words. And before that, we heard from Swedish Sami artist Sara Ainak, accompanied by Johan Wåhlberg performing Nature Speak. Now, the Sami is one of the few official indigenous communities left in the European Union, so what a powerful way to start this summit. Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, children who will join us later, welcome, välkomna to the 5th Sustainability Summit of Pioneer the Possible platform, and the first of its kind at a World Expo. Now, this summit is dedicated to making the invisible visible, daring to look into the eye the processes that empower our lives, the theme of this World Expo, and check in how are they actually powered. Now, just like the taglines of this World Expo, empower lives, connecting lives, saving lives, so too will the sectors we explore today be about this, about how circular living, mobility, and net zero healthcare combined are united towards a shared ambition to transform in the name of sustainability. Now, these sectors combined, food, construction, mobility, healthcare, make up the lion's share of global greenhouse gas emissions, and facing them is not easy. But as James Baldwin said, change maker and activist, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed unless it is faced. So we will dare facing them together and celebrate Sweden and Japan that have come together to face what must change. And show what happens at the nexus of trust, innovation, collaboration, our common values, what happens when they are united to become our superpower. And some of the heroes today joining me later are heroes that embody this superpower. Now, I'm a political economist when I'm not doing something glorious like this, advising at the nexus of tech and sustainability, and I've been induced with something that is quite hard to come by in the sustainability space these days. In prepping for this summit, speaking to these heroes, I've been induced with, well, Her Royal Highness was much louder in saying hope. I say it with a whisper, hope. But in a world where major forces are not just giving up on sustainability, but actively working against sustainability, highlighting the heroes that don't is more important than ever. And in a world where the definition of sustainability is in constant negotiation, how can Japan and Sweden agree? And in our differences, birth innovation. Let's explore. Now, these heroes ask of us in return to do the following. To allow the information that we take in today influence the way that we as constituents go to the ballot and choose our politicians, the way we as consumers go to the market and place our money, and the way we as humans parent our communities, families, and ourselves to learn better ways to listen and also to let go. And to that very end, I hope you didn't sit on it as you came in, but you might have noticed there's an Uchiwa fan, we hope, on your seat, around your seat, one side yellow, one side blue. And this is truly to engage you throughout the conversation we have on stage here today. Now, not only during fika or later at networking, but we're going to actively engage you throughout to hear your voice. Check in deeply, honestly, so we can give you the most honest feedback in return. Hope we'll get some interesting surprises along the way. Now, to set the scene for our discussions today, I have the pleasure to welcome Mr. Jan Larsson to the stage, CEO of Business Sweden and the organization behind Pioneer the Possible platform. Please welcome to the stage, Jan Larsson. Welcome. Good to see you again. How are you? Yeah. Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, let's see. You're not like me, like a robot that has a cable plugged in.
Oh, you have to put it on.
One of those on button. Let's demystify a little bit the Pioneer the Possible platform. For those that haven't heard about it before, tell us a little bit. What is it about?
The Pioneer the Possible is actually an idea that we had some 5 years ago and that we spread as a model of collaboration, a platform if you wish, for collaborating. Here in Japan we initiated it in 2021, almost 5 years ago, when together with the embassy, Business Sweden here, and a couple of forward-leaning, future-oriented companies from Sweden got together and started speaking with the Japanese counterparts. And it's actually a fairly simple idea. It comes from the fact that, as the Crown Princess said, that industry is really driving in this, so we need to kind of join forces in industry and understand that if we are to reach those net zero targets that both Sweden and Japan has, Japan for 2050 and Sweden for 2045. If that is going to become reality, then we need to collaborate. We need to collaborate over borders, we need to collaborate over industries, we need to collaborate across disciplines within industry and so on. So what we said is that let's see what the challenges are, and let's see where we have technological solutions to those challenges. And let's see if we can join forces, if we can find the challenges here in Japan, the companies here in Japan, but also the companies back home in Sweden that can work together in order to solve those problems. So that is basically the idea, and that's what we've been doing now. And we see some really good results in this. We know that we have pushed the infrastructure for electric vehicles, we have pushed the legislation for circularity, we have worked with procurement on energy, green energy, and things like that, which has been really, I think, given us the feeling that this is a way forward that is maybe not so fancy, not so many kind of nice words, but it's very practical and very oriented on getting things done, and we believe truly that that is what is needed right now.
Yeah, we hear a lot of the outcomes of the platform. There's been some surprises, not just across existing value chains, but across value chains that didn't sort of talk before. So we'll hear much more about
Yes, it's
that.
technology, it's value chains, but it's also business models and kind of how you look at the client, how you look at the customer. So there's a lot of exciting outcomes from these collaborations.
Yeah, looking forward to hear more about all of them. So, Jan, you have you're CEO of a company, Business Sweden, working across 40 different markets. How's Japan different when it comes to sustainability? Is it a growth bet for Japan?
Japan is unique in many ways. I think Japan really has the power to be a leader in the sustainability transformation. There are very few countries, if any, that has such deep industrial insights and knowledge as Japanese companies have. Few companies that work so countries that work so systematically and long term in the way they're working with things. So I think working together with Japan is more than anything a collaboration. In many other countries we feel that we come with a lot of innovation, with the kind of industrial insights from Sweden, and we kind of end up in a situation where we almost feel sometimes that we can tell countries and companies how they should do it. In Japan it's very much about partnership, because we can't come to Japan and tell the Japanese how to do things. They are very, very good at that. But we also understand, I think both Japan and Sweden, that working together will make 1 + 1 much more than 2. And when it comes to Sweden with Japan, that is very much the truth. If we can get the best thinkers in the Swedish enterprise work together with the best thinkers in Japanese enterprise, we can really advance things in the transformation to a greener society.
Beautiful. So it's a give and take relationship, and one about diversity, so as the most fertile soil for innovation.
Yeah. And on top of that, I also think that Japan is unique in the way that it's very kind of precise in the milestones to the net zero. So now we know that the Japanese target for 2035 is to reduce emissions by 60% compared to 2013. And those kind of strict targets, that also kind of is a shout out to companies and to people that we need to change. I think that is also bringing a lot of energy into the collaboration.
Finally, Jan, do we have a mandate from you? What is your hope that is going to happen on stage here? Maybe rules of play from me as I guide this conversation.
No, I really hope that people will leave this afternoon with the feeling that it is doable. I think that too often we forget the fact that most of the science is already done. Most of the solutions are already here. So actually, what we need to do in order to solve these existential problems that climate change is just to deploy the insights that mankind already has. And I think if we can leave this room with the feeling, yes, it's doable and it's possible, if we can leave with that whisper of hope, I think we have come much further. And I really think that we should go out here, feel that we are bold, curious, that we are practical, that we want to make things done, but also that we understand that by collaborating we can come so much further.
Fantastic. Bold, curious, and practical.
Yeah.
Let's take that.
And collaborative.
And collaborative. That was actually 4. Okay, fantastic. I think on that note, we'll actually test our fans. What's more important for you? What are you hoping today? Is it the big inspiration, then it's yellow, the bold visions, or is it the practical actions, then it's blue? Let's try. Bold visions, here we test our fans, it's yellow, and then we have the practical example, it's blue. Help me here. I think we have the practical that are a bit more, right? Could it be 75% practical, blue? Would you agree on? You're also blue. Why is that?
I'm blue.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of like the saying that, you know, a goal without a plan is just a wish. If you don't have the plan, if you don't have the ambitions to get anything done, then you may just as well not think. We have to get going. The solutions are here. Let's get going. Let's get things done.
Let's get going. Let's get things done. We heard from the CEO. Thank you, Jan Larsson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, the interrelation between bold inspiration and bold action, well, they're actually quite intimately intertwined. We see something called performativity of expectations, which basically means that when we have bold visions about the future, they actually can perform in the present. Bold visions create bold actions in the present, and therefore visions actually perform. So there's something about those visions here that we're going to hear more about, particularly about the Memorandum of Cooperation that was signed last year between our prime ministers. And for this, we're going to hear by two gentlemen, Erik Slottner, our Swedish Minister for Public Administration, and I would like also to welcome to the stage Shihinori Gahara, Deputy Director General for the International Policy on Carbon Neutrality at Japan's Ministry of Energy, Trade and Industry. Thank you so much. Welcome to the stage. Mics ready? Are you comfortable in our IKEA sofas? Fantastic. All right, I think we're going to unpack this mysterious two documents signed last year, one by our prime ministers and one by our two ministries of energy and industry. Could you tell us a little more about those, and how do we make those big visions create also big actions?
I think I will concentrate on the second question,
yeah?
to be honest.
Great.
So I think in all agreements, all documents or agreements, partnerships or strategies, it's so important that all stakeholders take its responsibility to fulfill its requirements. And from a political side, we have to create preconditions for the market to be well functioned with regulatory frameworks that really can kind of encourage the private business, encourage investments, encourage innovation. And we need, of course, research and development, that we invest enough with money in research and development. So, but we talked before about concrete action or visions. I think we need a vision somewhere. We have to know where we want to, what are our goals, targets, but then we need concrete action, tangible targets or tangible measures to reach the targets that are measurable, that we can follow up, and that is responsible for all stakeholders that sign an agreement or a strategy.
Yeah, we're going to hear from industry in just a bit on how to realize on that vision. So the document was about green transition, developing next-gen technologies, advance the circular economy, batteries, mobility, the lot for green transition. If we turn to you, Kihara-san, when we look at circular living, mobility, and healthcare, what are some of the most impactful areas for collaboration, you think, between our two countries?
Yes, good afternoon.
Fantastic.
Yaye Tershnichi Kihara from Ministry for Economy, Handel Industry. Your Royal Highness, Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to participate in this Japan-Sweden Sustainability Summit in Osaka Expo. I remember my visit to your beautiful country in 2001, and as the Royal Highness just mentioned, Japan and Sweden both inherit beautiful nature, and our people have harnessed and enjoyed living with the nature for a long time. And also, both countries respect sophisticated technology and innovation, which has functioned as a strong engine for both of our growth. So building on our strategic partnership agreed by the leaders, and also the memorandum of cooperation signed by the ministers, Japan and Sweden are the perfect match who can jointly contribute to solve the global agenda. And answering to your question of where to start, developing clean, secure, and affordable energy system is top priority. Today, energy landscape is becoming very complex with a lot of growing geopolitical risks, and also increasing electricity demand driven by AI and data centers, and burden of energy cost on the economy. So government of Japan is now pushing the green transformation, or we call it GX strategy, to achieve triple breakthrough of simultaneously achieving emission reduction, economic growth, and energy security. All has to go together. And our goal is not only to realize net zero emission by 2050, but also to win the global industrial competition by leading the clean technology development and building low emission supply chain. So Japan and Sweden can work together to achieve triple breakthrough globally by providing cutting edge technologies. And in this context, the merger between the Hitachi and ABB, a leading global heavy electrical equipment manufacturer, has enabled to the production of high voltage direct current transmission systems. And these systems are essential for long distance, high capacity transmission of renewable energy and contribute significantly to stabilization of the global power grid. So, and also nuclear is also a viable option for decarbonization, and both Japan and Sweden possess strong capability on nuclear technologies. So I hope we can collaborate in this field as well to jointly contribute to global decarbonization efforts.
Thank you. Eric, that sounds like quite the ambition. Any comments from you? Additions,
Like,
concrete actions within these themes?
We like high ambitions, and that's what we should have high ambitions. So of course, not least in this political area. And I could just add, this morning I introduced a seminar about mobility with Scania, where Japan and Sweden really can contribute together with a more fossil-free fuel and fossil-free vehicle industry in general. So that's important as well. We have mentioned the recycled industry. I could also add to that the fossil-free steel that we are working on in Sweden, which will drastically actually decrease the amount of CO2 emissions in Sweden. So just to mention a few.
And we'll hear more about that too. Perfect. Let's invite you in the audience, but also you two gentlemen. Do you have your fans ready? I'd like to check in on the following. The most promising area for collaboration between Sweden and Japan in the next 5 years, is it technology and innovation or circular economy and policy? Technology and innovation, yellow. Circular economy and policy, blue. People want to put their fans like this, but then I can't see them. Okay, that was, okay, overarching yellow, right? Interesting. What was it? You helped me as well. Okay, what was the, why did you choose your color? You wanted both?
No, I chose yellow,
Yeah.
but I could do like this as well, because I hope we can collaborate in both of the areas. But in general, Swedes see Japan as a very high technology country, and I mean, you are very good and have been good for a long time in robotics, for example. So that's why I think that many Swedes normally or spontaneously think about technology. Japan and Sweden is also very highly, when it comes to digitalization, in the front liner in digitalization. And now the Swedish government has just adopted a new digitalization strategy. We have a close collaboration with the private business. In the budget we launched just 2 weeks ago, we invest a lot of money now to enhance our work on digitalization, and not least in artificial intelligence. And we change also the regulatory prerequisites to share more data, to get access to more data, and make the data that exists more valuable. So we are doing a lot of things now in Sweden to increase the digitalization, and we want to do that together with other like-minded countries, and Japan is one of them. And I had 2 meetings with 2 ministers in Tokyo, and we agreed very much on that development of the digital development and the implementation of new technology and artificial intelligence has to be based on democratic values, respect for human rights, and the rule of law. And we absolutely agree on that, which feels very good.
Sweden signed the AI ethical guidelines, safe, ethical, and inclusive. Johannes-san, I actually didn't see what you voted. Was it also technology and innovation, or was it circular? Yeah. Some words on that?
Yes, we have to do a lot more on technology, and for example, the most challenging part is the decarbonizing the hard-to-abate sector, which is the industry sector, and like steel, chemical, and cement. But we see promising example for between Japan and Sweden. The Obako which merged with Nippon Steel Group, now operates Europe's largest carbon-free hydrogen plant. And by replacing the heat source used in special steel processing, we replace that with hydrogen. And so this is reduce the CO2 emission by half. And this is the world's first initiative to use hydrogen as a heat as a source of the steel processing. So this is a very good example of combining the technological strength of both countries, and we can accelerate innovation and overcome the challenge and reduce emission while developing industrial competitiveness.
Thank you, Kihara-san. So we got the wish list from our public officials. Let's invite industry to get an industry perspective on the Swedish-Japanese collaboration. We'd like to invite to the stage Jakob Lund, who is the Chief Communications and Sustainability Officer at Investor AB, which has invested in some of the finest Swedish corporate jewels. And then we also are joined by Yasunori Takuchi, CEO of Corporate Action Japan, who he founded a couple of years ago to bring together corporations across Japan to make sure that they are actively shaping the green transition. So please welcome to the stage Mr. Jakob Lund and Takuchi-san. So we have the gentleman that we haven't heard. It's like closest to me. Oh, okay. Maybe Eric and Jakob. Again, we'll see. There's a lot of technicalities today. We'll see how it shapes up. Okay, thank you. Thank you. They did what I wanted. Thank you so much. Good start. Lund, let's start with you, Jakob. As representing Swedish industry with holdings in ABB and Atlas Copco, how do you see the Swedish company's unique perspective on the green transition?
I've come here today to try to give some of that hope you were alluding to. In a world where sustainability is being challenged from multiple fronts, I've come to kind of share how important it is for us as a long-term owner of large companies. We're not backing, and we will stay the course. And in fact, more than that, our companies have performed very well when it comes to reducing their CO2 emissions. In fact, so well that already last year, 6 years ahead of time, our companies combined, it's 25 big companies, delivered on our #1 climate target, which is to reduce CO2 emissions of their scope 1 and 2 by 70% compared to 2016. So that was delivered 6 years ahead of time. And in fact, next week, our board of directors is meeting to discuss strengthening our sustainability targets. So there is a lot of action going on despite all the gloomy headlines you see all across the world.
Yeah, maybe we should have a next session on the media landscape and why they don't highlight the success stories. That's a different summit for a different time. Takuchi-san, representing sort of Japanese industry, when you look at the green transition, where do you see the Japanese companies are most eager to tackle? Which challenges are that?
Thank you. I think a Japanese company has made a good progress so far. For example, more than 2,000 Japanese company has already achieved the SBT or committed to achieve in coming month. And also,
excuse me, science-based targets?
Yes, sorry.
For the sustainability nerds here, we know SBT, but yes.
Yes, that's a committed target.
Yes.
Yeah, science-based target. And also TCFD, which is a disclosure. More than 1,500 company has already signed up TCFD, which is 1/3 of the number of the company globally. So commitment and the disclosure is already there. So that is a very eager area Japanese company is doing. But on the other hand, if we look into the substance, commitment and disclosure need to be taken into the action, which is yet to come. I think, even though there is a commitment in the future of carbon neutrality, there should be a credible transition plan, which is yet to be done. We collaborate with various investors, and the investor, especially long-term investor, are expecting to the Japanese company to come up with a credible transition plan. Otherwise, vision is there, and there is no credible pathway to go. So that area we are trying to tackle from the investor perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have a background in banking, so I know you have an investor perspective. I'm probably worried about when we don't match the visions with the actions, we have a risk of stranded assets, and in the end, sustainability is a financial risk, right?
Yes. From the financial perspective, investment is, in essence, risk-adjusted return in a certain time frame. Without credible action, risk will be accumulated, and the portfolio will be damaged. The company asset will be stranded.
Yeah.
That is a real risks. So we would like to see company to move from the form to substance, from word to action.
Yeah.
That is a big expectation from the investors.
So in Sweden, your companies have matched the bold visions with targets actually ahead of time. And in here, the case that you're looking at with Japanese corporations, we have disclosure, but you're still waiting for the actions. I'd like to hear again from the audience, and also from you. Do you have your fans ready? You, Eric, as well, over there. Jacob, fantastic. Are consumers more important than governments in driving the green transitions? $1,000,000 question. Karen from IKEA is already laughing in the front. I'd like to hear more about that later. Yes, consumers are more important. Yellow. No. Governments are more important. Blue. And what do we have from Eric and Jacob? One each? Okay, also one each. Fantastic. Let me unpack this. We had mostly consumers in here, where the money in the pocket. Giving up on governments? I'm not sure. Let's hear the case for the government. Eric and Kihara-san, why did you vote? Well, actually, you voted the other way around. You voted consumers? No, you voted governments.
I did, but I think...
We're looking at you. We have 300 testimonies here to what you're about to say.
I noticed there was almost only one who chose the blue one, but through governmental decisions you can affect the consumers to make the right choices. That's why. But if you always put everything on the consumers, you make it very easy for yourself as a politician. So that's actually the reason I think the politicians, the governments, have to take the right actions to get a change. But of course it will affect the consumers, because without changing its consumption, it's not going to be a change. I mean, they are very mixed and linked together.
So you voted against in between. Yes, and answer here.
Amen.
Fantastic.
But I have to think or believe in politics and the governments, otherwise I'm on the totally wrong chair.
Eric, I'm happy that you do. I'm happy that you do. Some more comments on your votes here, gentlemen. Kihara-san.
Yes, I'm government official, but also I'm a consumer. And I like IKEA, so. And actually, the government thinks through and brings vision and brings policy and builds platform. But really important is the demand side. Whatever we bring to the table, the strong demand is needed to drive this carbon neutrality. So that's why. Of course, I care myself, of course, the government, but consumer is very, very important. Thank you.
Some more comments from Jacob and Takuchi-san?
I voted blue, which is a government. Of course, consumer demand is very important, but on the other hand, we talked to the various industry, corporate leaders, and the risks or sustainability issue is more than one company, one sector challenge. It's a system level challenge. In that sense, even though there is a consumer demand, there need to be a comprehensive policy intervention to tackle the system level challenge. Of course, yellow, blue, I wanted to vote both, but government policy intervention to support the transition is important. That's my view.
So the systems perspective has a maybe larger circle of influence. Jacob, maybe you'll embed your response to the next question, but I'll actually like to just hear your thoughts on the Japanese-Swedish superpower, because that's something we're going to talk a lot about. You're going to hear me say superpower many times, like an old record. But what is ideally your vision of a Swedish-Japanese superpower when we collaborate for sustainability?
Yeah, I think a key is, like you alluded to, collaboration between companies. You mentioned ABB and Hitachi and their collaboration. And in fact, just a few days ago, there was another big collaboration or deal announced where ABB decided to sell ABB Robotics to SoftBank in Japan. And that deal probably, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have happened if there hadn't been good dialogue and seeing that this fruitful collaboration between Hitachi and ABB worked as well in the past. So meeting up, building relations, and using those relations as a foundation to achieve stuff. That's the way to go, and that's why events like this one here today is so important.
Thank you. That's the way to go. Another mandate I think we got today. Final Uchiwa moment to conclude this session. I hope I'll see unilateral response, or else I'll chase you up here. We'll see. Quick one. Sweden and Japan together can be global leaders and not followers in the green transition. Blue, yes. No. Yellow. Ooh, there's some daring folks that want to meet up later for. I see you, sir, in the back. Okay, thank you, gentlemen, so much for opening and continuing this topic. All right, it's time to dive into our 3 sessions, and there's a little sneak peek that can explain that better than me.
5年前、スウェーデンは日本でプラットフォームパイオニア・ザ・ポッシブルを立ち上げ、両国が共通する課題を共に乗り越える歩みを始めました。対話から始まったこの取り組みは、今では真の共同の形へと発展し、スウェーデンと日本のパートナーが手を携えてソリューションを生み出し、志を行動へとつなげています。今、パイオニア・ザ・ポッシブルは持続可能な未来へと向かう私たちの共同の旅の中心にあります。それはスウェーデンのイノベーションと日本の卓越性を融合させることでグリーントランジションを加速し、世界に新たな変化を生み出せるという確かな信念の証です。共に私たちは世界に無限の可能性を体現しています。サーキュラーライフスタイルの促進、持続可能に生きるということ、それは一人一人の選択だけで実現できるものではありません。正しい選択を誰もが自由に選べる、そんな仕組みを作ることが求められています。そのためには価値の連鎖を超えて、国の垣根を越えて共に手を取り合うことが必要です。サーキュラーな社会へ、 循環する仕組みとビジネスモデルで変革のスピードをさらに高めるために、政策、イノベーション、そして消費者の力が一つに重なったとき、限りある資源は無限の可能性へと姿を変えます。未来のモビリティを描く。モビリティ、それは人と人とをつなぎ世界を動かす力。しかし今、そのモビリティは地球温暖化を引き起こす世界で2番目に大きな排出源でもあります。真のネットゼロを実現するために、私たちはモビリティの価値の連鎖、つまりバリューチェーンのすべてを見直す必要があります。脱炭素スチール、サーキュラーコンポーネント、次世代車両、スマートな交通制御まで、さらには最適化された物流とラストマイル革新、それぞれの取り組みが一つにつながるとき、ネットゼロモビリティへの道は確かに動き出します。バリューチェーンを超えた共同と革新がネットゼロモビリティを加速させていきます。ネットゼロヘルスケアの実現。医療は人の命を守るために存在します。しかし、その医療の現場が今、地球規模で健康を脅かす温室効果ガスを生み出している、そんな現実があります。ネットゼロの医療を実現するということは、病院をクリーンエネルギーで動かし、医療製品の環境負荷を減らし、そしてケアをより患者の近くへと届けていく。イノベーションと共同の力を集結することで、スウェーデンと日本は人を思うこと、そして地球を思うことが両立する新しい医療の形を示すことができるのです。スウェーデンと日本は共に持続可能な未来に貢献します。
Wondering if I truly have become a robot here. It's a new experience with the in and out. I'd like to take you back, just priming you a little bit before we jump into the first session on circular living, to the 1940s. Ingvar Kamprad pitching to investors, the future of furniture will not be about buying ready-made furniture, but actually consumers will want to assemble them themselves. Ridiculous idea, and then somehow that took over the world. And there's something quite central here. We need to be immune to what some people call katagellophobia, which is a phobia to being ridiculed. So there's something here as we look to sustainability that we need to dare to be immune to katagellophobia, entertain the most ridiculous ideas as they come. And some of the sort of people joining me here on stage today are absolutely immune to it. Because how ridiculous is it to suggest that fossil-free can be, or steel can be made fossil-free, or that paper can hold liquid in the case of Tetra Pak. And the examples go on and on and on. So as you think of wacky ideas today, hold on to them, don't discard them. They could hold the answer to some of our sustainable innovations needed going forward. So that's my little mandate to add to the long list. Now, exploring how to enable circular living, I would like to welcome to the stage, firstly, Karin Fluck, Chief Sustainability Officer at the Inca Group, the largest retailer of IKEA. I also want to welcome Yuki Isaka, Senior Director and Head of Sustainability at Sekisui House, along with Marie Trukstam, who heads the Department for Sustainability at the Confederation of Swedish Enterprise, and Togo Uchida, Director of ICLEI, a forward-leading organization gathering some of the most forward-leading cities in Japan. Please welcome to the stage these beautiful guests. Just free seating this time. Okay. Hello. Welcome. Let's start, I think, with a, are you sitting comfortably? You have to say it, it's IKEA, so. Yes, wonderful unaccountably. Isaka-san and Uchida-san, let's start with the Japanese perspective here as we look at circular living. Is there something we need to know about the history and culture of the Japanese relation to nature? I think that could be a pretty neat framing.
In Japan, we have thought of a word of mottainai. Some of you know this mottainai. This is the respect for natural resources, and this is the desire to avoid waste. And whether it's food or clothing or energy or time, we use this mottainai.
Mottainai.
Yes. And this spirit is we value using things fully and responsibly. So this mindset promotes reuse or repair and sustainability, and this spirit we hope to share globally.
And that's very central to Sekisui House, which we're going to hear more about exactly how you're making it happen. Uchida-san, some words on that.
Yeah, in terms of coming to the historical background, Japan experienced this national isolation for over 200 years, and that ended in the mid-19th century. And since then, Japan opened up for global economy, modernized, and therefore we have this very developed modern society that we have now. During that time, population grew by 4 times, and it has been around 170 years since then. Now, in terms of the effect on the economy side, so when we were isolating ourselves, it was very circular, and it was almost independent. But then now we have this energy dependency. Around 85% of our energy is imported, 60% of our food in calorie-wise are imported. So that's a kind of a side effect that we're having now.
And when you work with some of the most forward-leading cities, your work at the moment represents about 30% of Japanese population. How does this cultural legacy influence the work that you do at the local level?
Yes, so just to give you the context, Japan is highly urbanized society, so 90% of population lives in the urban area. On the other hand, we have around 70% of our land is forest and mountain. And we have like mega city like Tokyo and Osaka. On the other hand, we have a very small villages. And there's around 1,700 municipalities in Japan. So there's that diverseness. But when it comes to that cultural aspect, so the mottainai, the culture certainly exists in the deeply embedded cultural side. But then, since we opened up our economy, that's 170 years ago. So globalization and modernization is also very deep and deeply embedded in our culture. So it's not about black and white, but it's all about reinventing the new way of living. And one more thing that's very important is the aging society and depopulation in Japan. 30% of our population is now over 65. So the young generation is becoming minority almost. So there's that demographic challenge that all the local government faces. So the local government have to face and deal with the transition, and we have to come up with a new way of living by aligning ourselves with the citizens, leaving no one behind. So that is the kind of approach that the local government are taking.
This backdrop, I think, will be omnipresent through our dialogue. Also, we're going in net zero healthcare, talking about an aging population as well. So, but Maria, I'll actually change from a Japanese to maybe a Swedish perspective. Your work representing Swedish industry. If we built on cities here, what's some of the sort of pressure points cities can do to support businesses in the green transition and particular circular economy?
Sorry, let me start with saying that urban environments on a global level actually consume about 70% of all energy, all resources, and also account for 70% of global emissions. That meaning that cities and local communities can act as important frontrunners and testbeds for circular solutions. So if municipalities can actually provide predictable rules and also supportive infrastructure and procurement, companies can do what they do best, invest, innovate, and also scale. So circular business models is something where we can move from only pilot cases to actually the established way of business operations, which will in turn create jobs, competitiveness, and real climate impact, both locally and globally.
I'm seeing you nod, Uchida-san, representing Japanese cities. We're talking the same language here. Yes, fantastic. So we're moving from cities up the abstraction ladder up to the super global. Karen and Marie, I know you both came home from Climate Week in New York. Just want to weave in some of those insights from there as well. Can you bring some with us to this conversation on circular living that you think is relevant?
Shall I go first?
Go for it.
Great to be here, and hope you're all enjoying the furniture outside as well. It's really comfy up here. But just went to Climate Week New York City with a little bit of trepidation, like many sustainability professionals, I think. And we actually spoke to Helen Clarkson from Climate Group that runs Climate Week in June, and she was like, is anybody going to turn up? I'm not sure. But actually it was bigger and better than ever before. Over 1,000 events, 100,000 people attended. And I went with a little bit of optimism, and I came back with a big O for optimism. It was really energizing, more than the other ones I've been to, and that's because it was really focused on action. Jan was talking about that earlier. It's about progress over perfection. It's about don't stand on stage and make big, bold statements that you don't know how you're going to get there yet, but really deliver tangible action. And the other thing we really spoke about as well is the need to change the narrative. The science is clear, but those of us who work in sustainability have lost ourselves in that science narrative. And no one wants to hear what they have to give up or all the technical scientific details. They want to hear about prosperity, what's to gain, a thriving economy, jobs, growth, innovation. And that's what we're now switching to. There was a full-page advert in the New York Times talking about renewable energy. It didn't talk about CO2 emissions. It didn't talk about climate at 1.5 degrees. It talked about jobs, growth, innovation, energy security, lower energy prices for everybody's homes.
And the progress that is actually happening. Yeah. Marie, building on that, some insights from New York.
I can just echo that. It was really an action-based atmosphere, and also in terms of circularity, simply put, being resource efficiency was seen as a key enabler both to reach climate targets but also for increased resilience. And I think that is really something to build on, also linking city action, as we've heard about, to the regional and global level in terms of planning, procurement, standardization, and enabling policies. And that at least that's something I would bring to the COP30 and beyond.
Oh wow, bringing to the COP30 another meta agenda to keep in mind. So concrete actions, I think that's where we need to look at Sekisui, because you're actually having concrete actions on being the first eco-first building company, right? Would you like to share how you're transforming the construction industry in practice?
In Japan, its homes are demolished rather than renovated, because this paradox is partly driven by the frequent natural disasters or those kind of tax system that depreciates building value to nearly zero about after 20 years. It is very those things encouraging new construction. So as Sekisui House, we are addressing through strengths of prefabricated homes, which offer resilience and ease of maintenance. So we've also launched several circular initiatives. One is the SUMSTOCK certification. We are collaborating the 10 house builders. It is visualizes the value of existing homes and enables fair resale. And another is house to house, a challenge to build homes entirely from reusable materials. And these efforts aim to shift the housing industries toward true circularity.
I can highly recommend watching the YouTube clip on the House to House project on a Monday morning if the coffee hasn't kicked in, and you'll be super hopeful. 100% recyclability of the house, fantastic. Uchida-san, what is a lever when we have legislators in the room to enable circular living and circular economy? What would be your wish list?
Well, I think it's really about living along with citizens and listening to them. So when I talk to my local government, who are a member of our organization, we put importance of staffs to go to the door, listening to the livelihood of people. Unless if you don't do that, it's pretty much impossible to come up with a good policy. And we also communicate saying that sustainability is all about good policy. It's nothing super science about it. If you are listening to people's living standards and what people are worried about every day, you can come up with a good policy. So I think that would be the major advice that I give to the local government, at least for the policy.
Thank you. Karen, I know you have a wish list about harmonization in the circularity space. Would you like to elaborate? Again, to the legislators, sharpen your ears.
Yeah. And I just want to say, the reason I was laughing about the customer versus government, because of course we need both. We need the whole system in the room to come together and drive things. But when I was in New York, I was listening to Ryan Gellert from Patagonia speak. He was with Jesper Brodin, our CEO, at an event we were running. And he said the most important title in the world today is not CEO, CSO, or president or whatever, it's citizen. So the power of your vote, the power of your shopping behavior, going with brands that you trust and so on, the power to come together. When you live in a democracy, don't forget that individual power and agency that you have. So I think that was such a powerful statement that's really stayed with me. And people only change when they want to change, even if governments try and make them change. So the incentives have got to be about desirability and so on. But the question on harmonization, yes, of course we need legislation and regulation to be harmonized. If we have a common standard on how to measure circularity, we've got the Global Circularity Protocol coming out later this year, will be launched at COP. And if we all have a common way of measuring, then it's a level playing field. Then we can also, the saying, what gets measured gets done. We can then all measure and see progress. And then we also know we need, whether it's national or subnational level, that if we have common standards on how to be able to move recycled materials around countries and states and so on, that will help to really expand and accelerate the circular movement too.
Fantastic. Marie, you were taking it all in. Any comments to add on top?
Since we need to actually redesign the whole system from linear to circular, I think my simple wish to policymakers is, when you provide enabling policies, please make sure to also include market-based criteria, because if we have circular but also competitive solutions, it will be sustainable for real.
Thank you, Marie. I'd like to end with an Uchiwa fan question. When we talk about circularity, sometimes it can hurt on the incumbents, the companies that are grown out of the old linear production era. So my question to you is, who will win circularity? Is it the new players that maybe don't have legacy systems, maybe don't have KPIs pushing standardized products every year, or do the incumbents still have a chance? New players, yellow. The incumbents still have a chance, blue. Blue, blue, blue. Okay. I think it's a bit revealing as to who we have in this crowd. I'll let that hang. Thank you so much, Marie, Karen, and Ikre, and Sikasui. Thank you so much for joining me today. All right. I mentioned before that we have youth with us present today. Let's not forget the youth outside, but also inside that we have invited. I'd like to welcome to the stage a local high school choir from Kansai who bravely take on the very ambitious task of singing a never before heard Japanese translation of the classic Swedish song Ida's Sommarvisa, originally written by Astrid Lindgren to celebrate the secret force that is nature that turns spring into summer. And I promise you, I will not join this choir. I will just say finally, please welcome to the stage here, Hibarigauka Gakuen High School Choir. quite the task. Encore! For those of you that took films and movies, that was fantastic, please do. But please do not post it on social media, they have asked. Her Royal Highness Crown Princess Victoria will soon leave us, but we would like to take a picture to commemorate this moment before we continue with another session on circular living. So I will actually ask Casper, our esteemed photographer, to join me on stage here, and these photographies will be shared with you afterwards. But before that, I think we should stand as we take the photographies. And oh, good morning, everyone. You look beautiful, and please stay standing as Her Royal Highness leaves us to join us later tonight. Thank you so much for being with us on the first part. Thank you so much. Beautiful, everyone. I can attest that that was a beautiful picture. Also nice to see who is in the crowd. All right, after talking on a pretty high level about circularity, we're now going to go deep into a very concrete case of how this Japanese-Swedish superpower has materialized in concrete outcomes for circular living. So for that, we will hear about an aseptic carton packaging success story. I would like to welcome to the stage first Mr. Nils Hugard, President of Tetra Pak Japan and Korea, and also joined by Ms. Yuko Watanabe, who is Chief Green Transformation Officer at Aeon, and Mr. Hitoshi Sano, Vice President of Corlex Shin-A, a leading Japanese recycler and household paper manufacturer. So yes, please take the stage. And I believe to start where the value chain of your industry starts, I think we will start with you, Mr. Nils Hugard, right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. So, when you look at this carton package, what comes into your mind? Is it burnable waste, or is it a valuable resource? So today, we are joined 3 partners in the circular value chain, Corlex, Aeon, and Tetra Pak, to explain about a very practical model that we are driving together to contribute to the circular economy. This package is made of 70% renewable paper material, and it plays a role in reducing the carbon footprint. Our milk packages in Japan consist of carton and of plant-based polymers. So we reach 99% renewable material. So what does that mean? It means that it essentially grows back. So when you have sustainably managed forest, that by the way consumes carbon dioxide as a main component of its growth, then it's complete circular. We also able to 100% recycle a package like this. However, in Japan, we're only recycling 22.8% of the cartons. So most of the materials is actually burnable waste. So to increase our recycling effort, we need to collaborate across industries and across the entire value chain. I think we can see the value chain on the screen in our industry. So through opportunities like this summit, through all of our interactions with partners across the value chain, we try to drive momentum to reach this sustainable society. And now the carton that I'm holding is not just a package. It's actually a symbol of circularity, connecting manufacturers, distribution, and recycling. So I will use this package as a symbol when I pass on the baton. But let's first introduce the companies, and I will allow myself to start. We as Tetra Pak have a clear purpose. We commit to making food safe and available everywhere. And we do that with a promise to protect what's good, namely food, people, and the planet. These guidelines are driving everything we do, from innovation to execution and the way we behave. Tetra Pak was founded in Lund in Sweden in 1951 on the ambition that a package should save more than it costs. And it's not just about money, it's also about nature. We operate today in more than 160 countries, and we provide advanced food systems to all of the food manufacturers in these countries. We do that through three core areas of business. One is building all of the processing infrastructure and automation systems for advanced food plants. So if you imagine dairy, beverage, cheese, half of the world's cheese production is on our equipment, half of the world's ice cream production is on our equipment, prepared food, soup sauces, and something new that we are putting quite a lot of investments and energy into is new food, which is precision fermentation and mass fermentation. That I think is another subject, but we could also talk a lot about that. Secondly, we are of course among consumers and most people in the room known for our packages. We have very advanced aseptic filling machines and packaging systems that enable food to remain safe and with high quality without preservatives for up to 12 months by using advanced food science. We have hundreds of formats, and we deliver 180 billion of these cartons around the world. Lastly, we have an element of service, advanced service models, and it's not only to drive total cost of ownership, it's actually also services to drive down or improve sustainability. Tetra Pak is committed to net zero greenhouse gas emission reductions in our own operations by 2030. And I have the good news to say that in 2024, we have reduced 54% if we compare to 2019. We also have the ambition to engage the whole value chain for net zero by 2050. So far, in the same period, we have reduced 25%, and obviously everybody knows it's a bigger challenge. So we continue progressing, and we do a lot in recycling. We have 220 recycling partners around the world. But again, in Japan, we are 22.8%, and in the aseptic part of the business that use aluminum, we are only 3.6%. So to address this, we are here in this partnership. We have built now 780 collection points. It's a very practical solution, adding alone 284 this year. So this is something we are going to hear about from the other parties as well. And if we look at the next page, you can also see that in Japan, a lot of these packages are recycled to toilet papers and tissues. But internationally, you also see 3D printed furniture, even classics in furniture, roof materials. We heard about the sustainable city, so we have building materials. There are a lot of applications for used cartons. So with this, I think I pass the carton.
To Ms. Watanabe-san.
あ
When for translated
Yes,
experience,
please.
have your devices
Translator.
ready.
set up your translator, please. 皆さんこんにちは。イオン株式会社から参りました渡辺と申します。私たちイオングループは日本、そして中国、そしてアジアで小売業を展開しております。で私たちの事業は自然の恵みなしには成り立たないということを自覚し責任を負っているというふうに考えています。だからこそ私たち自身が持続可能であるためには社会全体も持続可能でなければならないというふうに考えております。私たち人間は、社会はですね、これまでは作る、使う、そして捨てるという一方通行の、モデルで進んでまいりました。しかしながら、その先に行き着く行き止まりがあるということに皆さん今気づいているのではないかと思います。イオンはですね、1991年からお店の店頭で資源回収を始めております。非常に長い歴史の中でお客様と一緒に資源循環というものを考えてきたというところが私どもイオン小売業ですね、普通の生活者の方々、消費者の方々との接点を日本の中でもより多く持つ私たちがこの資源循環ということを一般の人たちと一緒に考えることができる企業であるというふうに考えています。本日はですね、私どもと一緒に、資源循環を行っていただいておりますコアレックスのテトラパック様とこの資源循環の大切さということを皆さんと一緒に考えていけたらというふうに思っておりますのでよろしくお願いいたします。
Passing the baton. Beautiful.
大丈夫ですか。
Yes, Samu-san.
はい、こんにちは。コアレックス CA の佐野でございます。当社コアレックス CA は大阪・関西万博、この会場ですね、における未来社会ショーケースのサプライヤーとして支援させていただいております。工場の方は静岡県富士市に本社を置く製紙メーカーでございます。当社は大阪・関西万博から発生した紙ゴミ、またこのような紙容器ですね、こちらを回収し、これを原料として3日以内にトイレットペーパーとしてこの会場にお戻しさせていただいております。で、大阪・関西万博4月の13日から9月の30日までの171日の間でこのような、紙容器、それから紙ゴミの回収が約 75.5 トン回収をさせていただいて、二酸化炭素の排出量を燃えるゴミとして換算した場合に比べて約 60%、62.6 トンの削減を実現させていただいております。またトイレットペーパーの方の納入も約30万ロールトイレットペーパーとしてこの会場の方にお戻しさせていただいております。で、回収物には非常にリサイクルが難しくて、これまで燃やすしかなかった飲食ブースから発生する紙皿、紙コップなども含まれております。当社は独自の技術により紙から紙資源を抽出し、トイレットペーパー、ティッシュペーパーをリサイクルすることでサステナブルな社会の実現に寄与しております。本日はどうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you, Samu-san. So, very concrete case of what happens when technology provider, retailer, and recycler meets. I wish I was part of this value chain. I feel a fear of missing out, FOMO of cross-value chain collaboration. I don't know if that's a thing. But when you work together, Nils, you don't understand Japanese, do you? But still, these are the results that you have achieved. For people in the audience thinking about deepening their Japanese and Swedish collaborations, what's a key tip to making it work? In one sentence with the final seconds to go.
Collaboration with trust. I think that's how it works. And the joint desire to drive circularity. But then in the end, it's also, to make it sustainable, not only from sustainability in itself, but also from a commercial perspective.
Sama-san and Watanabe-san on making it work, Sweden-Japan collaboration. Any notes?
はい、同じですね。やっぱりお互いを信じて一緒に取り組んでいくっていうことをなんていうかディスカッションしながら進めていくことかなと思ってます。で、特に生活者の皆様のアクションが大事だよっていう話が最初のアンケートでもあったかと思うんですけど、我々のように店頭でお客様にお伝えすることができる事業者が皆様の取り組みをしっかりとお伝えすることで、それは日本だけでなく、国を超えた世界の循環社会っていうものを作ることにも意識を変えていくことにもつながっていくんじゃないかなと思います。
Thank you. Thank you. Final words.
これまでの枠組みにとらわれずにですね、いろいろな業種ですとかいろんな形態を巻き込みながら一緒にリサイクルをしていくということを考えるのが一番かなというふうに考えております。よろしくお願いします。
Beautiful. I'm just going to say something on stage that I've never said before, but it's a shout out to Corlex, who has a YouTube clip of the Willy Wonka factory of toilet paper. Never said this before, so I had to take my chance. But something to look into if you want to know the fantastic success stories that come out of these companies. So thank you so much. Now, you will be getting a fika, the Swedish institution, for some of you that haven't experienced it before. First, thank you so much for joining us on stage. Thank you so much. Now, the fika is prepared to you next door, and there's some practicalities I need to give you. There's something about a collar around your neck here, so this is an opportunity for you to see which of these 3 sessions you are allotted to, and also who you could strike up a conversation that knows a little bit about the same area as you. Or if you're really daring, talk to another color, and you'll see if there's some cross-fertilization there. And finally, also, if you want to start living circularly already now, be mindful of the napkins in the area, because those come out of Tetra Pak's beautiful technology. So thank you for that, Nils. And also, if you see some cameras around filming, we have a Swedish and Japanese press around, so that is that, so you know. Now, we will be back in 25 minutes from now. I think if my time is okay, that will be around 16:25. Could that be correct? I'm looking at some time holders here. 16:30. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Sam. So we will be back here at 16:30. Thank you so much for the first part of the session. We will be back talking about mobility and net zero healthcare on the other side. Thank you. coffeed up and kanelbulle filled, hopefully. Hibarigauka Gakuen School Choir performing Eva Taube. You're really getting the highlights of Swedish music here. Eva Taube's Änglamark. Also, a first ever translation to Japanese. Now, speaking about youth, I have the pleasure to teach at business schools, and it's quite daunting when you open up a classical managerial economics book, but we still teach our youth. And some of the reason that we are in this mess today and have to talk about the topics of today. Now, we still teach them that value chains are linear and products are standardized and the winners are about economies of scale, when the future is about economies of scope and circular products and servitized products. And some of the heroes today are hopefully the authors of these new books. Now, the most fantastic dogma that we still teach our youth, that I linger on, is division of labor. You've heard that before? Division of labor. When we think about it a bit longer, division of labor also sometimes leads to division of accountability. But what we're seeing here is when we talk about things like scope 2 and scope 3, it is about not saying, well, those are not my emissions, they're yours, take care of them. We go together, and across the value chain, we start owning the entire emission. And so in mobility, we see this happening just like we did in circular, and just like we will see in net zero healthcare. With mobility, we're going to start upstream, often overlooked elements like components and the materials that go into our cars and trucks. We would like to invite to the stage leaders from SSAB, from Bridgestone, and from Autoliv. And if I'm finding around my quotes here, here it is. Where did I leave? There's a missing one here. Hello? Why am I not seeing anything here? Oh, I know. It's because we have a friend of the stage coming first to set the scene about the Japanese mobility sector. And for that, I would like to welcome upstage Mr. Takuchi-san from Corporate Action Japan. There, I got it. Please welcome to the stage. Fantastic. Okay, fossil-free steel, we're going to talk about that a little bit. I know you've worked on this as well when it comes to the mobility sector. What are the most critical incision points for the mobility sector in Japan that we need to see happening for sustainable mobility sector?
Yeah, thank you. Look at the Japan mobility decarbonization. EV sales is just 2.8% out of the entire new car sales in Japan, while I think 58% in Sweden. Big gap. Why? I think it's lack of the enabling environment, which have various challenges combined and complex. EV in Japan is not so affordable price compared to others. Also, infrastructure is not well established. Charging station, speed of the charge, and also electricity is not yet transformed to renewable energy. And also consumer concept is not well recognized about the EV. How we can overcome this complex, of course, consumer recognition or demand for cleaner vehicle is important, but my personal view is that comprehensive policy intervention is critically important, because in Japan there is a subsidy, government subsidy for the gasoline users. It is in the context of the supporting the current generation to tackle the rise of the living cost. Yes, it is supported by consumers, but is it wise spending of the tax for the future generation?
Ooh, the dilemma for
so
sustainability.
yes, so policy need to be aligned with the clear vision in the long future for the carbon neutrality.
So my point is that we need to establish the enabling environment. Yeah, that's the most challenging situation in Japan.
So more lists to the policy and legislators here, but enabling environment. What are some of the things that are happening that gets you up in the morning and that brings some hope in the mobility sector in Japan?
Yes, I think, in order to scale up the EV demand, maybe public procurements for the EV, and we also try to, make the EV is practically usable, user-friendly like that. So various, policy need to be, improved or like that. Actually, Japan have a lot to learn from the Sweden, how EV or transition was achieved. So
you will sharpen your ears for the next session here. Yeah. I will invite you back at the end of the session and actually hear from an investor's point of view a little bit like, would you place your money in the actor's herd? So we will let that linger as a cliffhanger. I just want to hear from you, actually. Here you have a fan and the audience. Do we think we can decarbonize the mobility sector in Japan by 2035, 10 years from now? Yes, yellow. Blue, no.
2035.
2035, 10 years from now. Yes, fantastic. On that jolly note, thank you, Takuchi-san. Thank you so much. We'll see you in just a moment. Okay, an optimistic crowd in here. Let's see if we can turn some of the blues after this, this session on the upstream part. Okay, so I would like to invite up to the stage Thomas Hörnfeldt, Vice President of Sustainability at SSAB, and Akihiro Inatsugi from Bridgestone. Here he is an Executive Director of Corporate Sustainability. And finally, Kaisa Tarnamani, Vice President of Sustainability at Autoliv. Please welcome and join me on the stage. Okay, how are we doing? Yes, good. Your mics should be on. Yes, fantastic. Welcome. I'm gonna cut straight to the start of the value chain with the raw material and with the steel. SSAB, right. Fossil-free steel, once ridiculous idea. Speaking of being immune to cancellanophobia, how did that come about? And what's the big theory of change here? If everyone were to use fossil-free steel, would we?
Well, I think it was a matter of actually making up our mind that we needed to do something. Something needed to be done. The steel industry make up 7 to 9% of global CO2 emissions, and we can't continue like that. And we took a bold move, I think. In April of 2016, we said we are going to make fossil-free steel. We're not quite sure how. We start the feasibility study right now, and maybe it will be commercially available sometime after 2035. But this is something that we're going to do. And that was really energizing the entire company. I'm not saying it like saying we're going to put a man on the moon before the end of this decade, but something like that. It energized people. We had a common goal, and we actually were also, I'm digressing now, I'm sorry, we were changing the image of the company. You know, steel industry, black chin is on television, that's what you see. But we've never given or been getting so many spontaneous applications from high schools and universities and even kindergartens as we do today. Anyway, on the UN Climate Summit in New York in 2019, we said we're going to do this for real. We're going to build a full-scale plant, and then we have kind of accelerated since then, and right now we're saying that this will be commercially available in 2028 in rather large quantities. Yeah, I know, it's scary.
Fantastic. It's scary, but we'll get there. Yes?
Absolutely.
Okay, 300 witnesses to that also. I think you weren't digressing it. Straight on the point. The power of the big visions. You don't know how you get there. Power of pull amongst talents and then financial capital, and then the big visions have to have a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well done. You said going to the moon. That brings me to Inatsugi-san and Bridgestone, because you're developing tires also for moon landing. Pretty cool. When we look about tires, we often forget about them. Now, what's the company's vision on decarbonizing the mobility sector?
Yeah, thank you, Mata. So I think it is important not only to lead the industry in reduce CO2 emission, but also to contribute to reducing our customers' CO2 emission. So, for example, by increasing loading efficiency of our tires, we help lower CO2 emission during customers' use phase. And additionally, so we are supporting the transition to electric vehicle by providing tires specifically optimized for EVs using advanced technology. And for more broader perspectives, so the demand for mineral resources such as copper is increasing with the expansion of renewable energy and EV. So we view supporting mining operation with our tire as another important role for our companies.
Thank you. So we have our steel, we have our tires, and we need the seat belts, the airbags, also an overlooked component here, and more. Out to leave, you have also very ambitious targets, net zero across the entire supply chain by 2040, your own operations, though, carbon neutral already by 2030. Is this a headache for a VP of Sustainability?
I would say it's more of a motivator. I think also in our company this has really energized many people. Just to set the scene, where do our carbon footprint come from? So I could mention 3 main building blocks. One is energy we use, other one is logistics, and the third one, by far the most important, is the materials we use to manufacture our products. So in order that we can meet those goals that we have set for ourselves, we need to move to use renewable electric energy in our own operations and also at our supply operations. We need to use energy and materials more efficiently. We need to adopt low carbon logistics solutions, circular low carbon materials like fossil-free steel.
I was nervous there for a while.
And we are working together with SSAB. And of course, we also need to be able to develop attractive low carbon and circular product offerings for our customers. So most of these actions really do require collaboration across the value chain.
Collaboration across the value chain. I think that's the segue to you, Christian Levin. Now we have almost all the things. We need the car and the trucks, and here's a leader in the trucks, in renewable, in EVs and alternative fuels. Welcome, Christian Levin. Will we give him a little bit of applause? CEO of Scania.
Thank you.
Okay, what's your vision? Let's look into the future. May I remind you we're at the World Expo, okay? So you're allowed to talk about hyperloops and flying cars whenever you want. What's the vision for Scania for a sustainable...
We set out not just a vision, but the new purpose of the company, our real reason to exist in 2016, already saying we're going to drive the shift to sustainable transport systems. Meaning we're going to drag along these guys and everyone else around us because we realized we could not do this ourselves. And that remains 9 years later, still our purpose. And we're still not there, by far.
Systems, but you're collaborating here together. What's the power of us?
Yeah, we certainly do. And if we talk about, like we did on the investor portfolio, where are we on our scope 1 and 2?
Yeah.
So our industrial part, we've come a long way, and we're going to beat our science-based targets that we set out in 2020. Big part of that is coming from the supplier side. So if we take the steel, if we take on a heavy commercial vehicle, it's obviously heavy for a reason, right? And that's predominantly steel. But if we add steel, aluminum, iron, and then on a battery electric vehicle, the batteries, that's 80% of the CO2 emissions from the production.
Wow.
And none of that we do ourselves. So we have to team up, and we have teamed. I think we're your biggest customer in the world, by the way.
Yeah, and one of our fossil-free partners, like Autoliv, for example.
Exactly. So we early signed up, and I think that was a necessity for any company that further down in the supply chain to know there is a business. And we all know, or many of the Swedish people know about the story of Northvolt, which was also financed by its customers as a means to be able to invest in a complete change in technology. Otherwise, the risk is just too big. So we have to collaborate around this, otherwise it will not happen.
Yeah, you said you're going to beat your science-based targets, not just reach them, beat them. Would you elaborate?
Yeah, we're going to, yes, we're going to be far better. But then you need to remember, so I'm still not at all satisfied. You have to remember that for every commercial vehicle, 96% of CO2 emissions is coming from the use phase, from our transport colleagues here in the audience. And there we're not going to beat our targets. We're not even going to come close. And that we can discuss what is then missing for that to happen.
So now we're talking about Scope 3 a little bit. Is it time for our fans? Just checking in here. Let's hear. Have you them ready? Do you own a car today? Yes, yellow, blue, no.
So what was the question, Christian?
Do you own a car today? Yes, yellow, blue, no. Public transport, walking, etc. Okay, majority yellow, yes? What do we say? Is it a 90%? And up here, all yellow. Okay, so for the yellows, for those of you that say yes, what car is it? Yellow, electric vehicle, blue, internal combustion engine. Thank you for your honesty. Yellow is electric vehicle, ICE, and hybrid. Oof, that's in the middle, right? And then we lose some. Okay, so do I see majority of internal combustion engine? Can you keep them up again? Yeah, here we are. So I think this is a little bit a question, reaction from here, the panelists. What are our biggest hurdles for making our visions come true?
In terms of?
Of your big targets, your big visions for transforming the mobility sector.
Well, I agree with,
transforming some of the fan positions we saw here today.
I mean, I have to agree with Christian. I usually say 90% to be on the safe side, but it is all about the use phase, of course, and we can't really help. But actually, we can help by, with Scania making stronger steel and making the truck lighter. You can save a bit there also. That is actually not insignificant. We should remember that it's not only about the carbon footprint of the material, but also how much material you're using. So that's just really a win-win. But if you could take out the carbon footprint of steel in this case, for a internal combustion vehicle, you would get rid of 30% of the emissions from the manufacturing phase, and a little less than for a battery electric vehicle for obvious reasons. The same for roughly the same for passenger cars, actually.
So I don't dare to talk for pass cars because that's out of my scope.
Yeah, that's true.
But for commercial vehicles, we heard about enabling conditions. That's a very tricky word.
Yeah.
But what it really means, in order for someone to actually choose a battery electric vehicle, in our industry, there are three things you need. You need a good business case, because no one buys a truck because it's looking good or because it's fun, you know. So the cost to operate must be so much lower, so it offsets the higher purchase price, because it is higher, because batteries are tremendously expensive because of the content of minerals and other expensive materials. The second is that you need to be able to operate that vehicle, right? So there must be charging infrastructure. Lots of problems behind the charging infrastructure, such as the grid. The pricing is perhaps the most important, but the availability is also. And the third one is, someone has to say, I'm interested in buying that transport that is green, right? And that's the important part, and the interesting that goes back to all of us, because all industrials buy plenty of transport. So that's a very good way to start, to look into your own, and that's what we've done, and say we're going to at least transform that into completely green at high speed. But these things needs to be in place, and they are not in place, unfortunately. So if we look to Europe today, 1.6% of heavy commercial vehicles registered this year are electric.
So lots to do, and I know you're investing a lot in educational programs, and that is to make the market ready as a big investment from your end.
And I think the policymakers, and there are some here also in this room, have a very big responsibility now. So industry in Europe, as you said in the beginning, but also coming in other parts of the world, not in the US however, but in other parts of the world, have invested and over-invested and stand with empty factories, but the products are there. And that's the starting point. And someone said here in the beginning, now everything is already invented. That's obviously not true. There is so much more to invent. But from an implementation point of view, the products are here, customers are not buying. And that's a failure policy, at least in Europe.
And an opportunity for us to work across the value chain to share some of the cost of investing in these theories of change. Yeah? So Kaisa, when you think about cross-value chain collaboration, you work a lot with SSAB and Scania. How do we make it work? And in Natsugi-san, you're not working yet with the likes of Scania, so what would it take for a good cross-value chain collaboration there? So some comments on that.
Well, I think at least one topic is to try to be pragmatic. So, but we also try to look on where are maybe these easier things to tackle first. So we'll go after them. So we take the first steps. The other thing is, of course, innovation. But I also agree that it doesn't solve everything. So then we also do need the policy piece. So we need all these elements, and naturally, then in the end we need a consumer who is willing to have such a solution and drive a low-carbon vehicle.
Thank you. Some Japanese perspective from Bridgestone, Hinatsugi-san?
Yeah, thank you. So I believe we are supplying tire to Scania, I think. But in order to...
You are.
So in order for us to work together, not just as a supplier, but as a true partner in co-creating value. So I think it is important to consider what unique value we can create together and how we can achieve differentiation and how we can build a win-win relationships for both companies. So we are continuously strengthening our sustainable approach to be chosen as a partner for value co-creation. So that is a kind of...
If I may add on to that,
Yeah.
because that's a super important part if we talk circular. You know, it's important in general because we need to be much more close when we develop towards new technologies and take risks together. But if we think about circular, it sounds so easy to say, okay, we take the stuff back in the end, we remanufacture it, and we just sell it. Well, that's too costly, unfortunately. But if we develop it together for remanufacturing or reassembly, reuse, we have seen, for instance, in taking a complete heavy big gearbox, doing that as for second life together with the supplier base, we're coming down in CO2 almost 50% and in cost almost 40%. So it's a clear win-win, but we can certainly never do that ourselves.
So everyone present in the lab as you do the R&D, as you
Create
design.
it, set it right from the start.
Thank you.
Which of course will take a lot of time because you need to change a lot of industrial processes at several levels in the supply chain. But it can be done.
And then sustainability is a creative constraint not only for compliance but for innovation. Final sentence, Natsuki-san, Kaisa, and Thomas, you're leaving us in just a bit. Christian, I will hold on to you. If there's one sentence we need to remember from this conversation, what do we leave the audience with?
Make bold decisions. It worked for us.
Kaisa.
I would highlight the importance of the collaboration and also not be satisfied as doing business as usual. We need to be bold.
Don't be satisfied with business as usual.
Yeah, from my view, so value co-creation is a kind of key enabler for our future, I think.
Value co-creation. Thank you so much, Natsuki-san, Kaisa, Thomas. Give them a warm hand. Thank you. We're moving downstream to another often overlooked. Oh, you're staying with me.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm holding on to you, sir. Downstream to the use phase of the vehicle. We will be joined by Nina Altarak, Country Director for Japan at Axis Communication, working with fancy AIs and all these shiny things we're going to hear more about to optimize the use phase. We will welcome back as well Karin Fluck from IKEA, and Takuchi-san from Corporate Action Japan. Please welcome me on stage. Fantastic. Nina and Axis, pioneering security cameras, AI, building sort of the underlying infrastructure for making invisible emissions very visible. How exactly are your technologies helping here?
I would say you already summarized quite a few of those things where Axis Communications comes from security cameras. We are also from Lund, Sweden, neighbor to Tetra Pak, so it's something in that part of Sweden. Our founder of the company already more than 40 years ago, and 30 years ago the intention was to create something that is connecting the world and linking products to the internet actually. And it started with security cameras, with the need of protect society, and it was security and safety in focus. And then over the very last 5-10 years, with all the technology development and digital transformation, AI, we can see the use of sensors. So for access communication, it's not about security and outside the building and then finding out who made that threat. It's to work on preventive actions. And that links then to mobility, as we discussed, and it's a super link here, where previously it could be about finding the license plate of the car, and now it can be about autonomous driving. How can we prepare society for that? And coming to cities, how we can have better traffic flows with a yellow, red, green light. How can that, with sensors, be monitored better? Or on buses, when we have people using public transportations, having cameras installed with real-time video streams. So it's both ensuring good flows, but also protecting people from harassments or from safety issues.
Again, we see that sustainability can also lead to upgrades, more further values here in the use space.
And that's exactly, and when we earlier today talked about hope, I have been so full of hope the last years, where you can see we have a positive side effect of using cameras and sensors that is so directly linked to sustainability, where we can have preventive actions, and with that linking it to financial targets and business cases, operational efficiency, we can actually support to good decisions in the society and help solve society issues. And this is really something beautiful, linking to where we come from as a company, to contribute to a smarter, safer world. I would also like to say a smarter, safer, more sustainable world.
Thank you. And I think a little bit about this enabling environment that Takuchi-san was mentioning before in the beginning. I will go into you in just a bit, but first on the buyer side, Karen, IKEA, I know you've set bold ambitions, but you've actually had to revise a little bit, being very honest about your journey here. Do you want to share with us?
Yes, thank you. Back with a different hat on now.
Yes,
and I would
mobility
just
hat.
like to say that's one thing I love about the sustainability role, is that it's such a variety of things and topics to get into, and challenges and opportunities. But yeah, I would talk about courageous leadership. So we are signed up to the Paris Agreement, like many other organisations and countries are, and that means we have to halve our emissions by 2030. And as part of that, we decided to make the big, bold statement, as we were talking about with SSAB as well, where you go out there without knowing all the answers and having all the ideas and solutions, but knowing we had to go out there and make a big statement and claim. And that was in 2018, we said by this year, 2025, we would have 100% zero emission deliveries. This is the home deliveries, so the last mile deliveries to customers. And of course, then we scratched our heads and said, okay, we've made this statement, how are we going to get there? So a lot of work and a lot of collaboration, but also, as we've been talking about and reflecting already in this panel, a lot of challenges too. Whether it's about sort of reduced payloads, even needing different driving licenses, availability of the trucks, and certainly availability of the infrastructure and charging. So last year, or actually I think it might have been earlier this year, we looked at it and said, we've not got where we wanted to get. Now we could just keep reporting on it in our annual report and then not make a big deal out of it and wait for experts to say, you said you'd get to 100% by now. Or we could actually go out there and proactively communicate. And that's what we decided to do, because we wanted to share the journey, the challenges, but also the progress we've made. So we revised it to over 90% by 2028, but of course we want to get as close to 100% as we can. And we're now sitting over 50% worldwide, and we have many cities in the world where we're 100%, and we just want to keep going forward with that progress as well. So, but we want to be open and honest about the challenges and work together to solve them.
I see the previous investor nodding about openness and transparency. Is that music to your ears, Takuchi-san?
First, I'm very encouraged by the ambitious target and the bold action from all the stakeholders. So it will be helping to make a brighter future. So yeah, that's my reflection.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So, but Karen, you didn't leave empty-handed, as you say. Big, bold ambitions, but it actually led to concrete results. Is some of those learnings something you have in the pipeline to bring to Japan? I know Axis has some exciting, I don't know if you can reveal some of the things happening in Japan. We'll start with Karen on the learnings bringing to Japan, and maybe that'll inspire Nina.
I mean, a lot of the learnings are to keep going. I mean, with our halving emissions goal by 2030, we're actually at 30% now already, and that's scopes 1, 2, and 3. So the 90+%, which is scope 3, is also part of that -30, and that's without any offsetting as well. So we've proved it can be done, and of that, of our emissions, 11% is in the mobility sector. So it's a big chunk of work that we need to do. So I think it is about collaboration, it's about partnerships, it is about advocating for policy change as well. This is where we really need to work together, because if we don't get the policies that really pull everybody together to move this in systems thinking way, then we will fail. And I think that's one of my biggest learnings as well, is to not think in silos, you know, circular over here, transport over there, renewable energy over here. It's about moving entire systems and being all connected. And I spoke to a German transport minister at COP last year, and he said this is not a transport problem, this is an energy grid problem. And we see that here in Japan too. And my colleagues who work here and are striving really hard to move the zero emission delivery agenda are really wanting to help with the grid, and the infrastructure is what needs to change. But we're at 20% now already in Japan. So we're proving it can still be done despite the challenges.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for openness. I didn't think I thought a sustainability report would be sexy, but I actually enjoyed reading yours, prepping for this session. I can actually highly recommend reporting on things like absolute versus relative decoupling, which is so hard to report on, so bravo. Maybe some inspiration from, would you like to reveal? Because I know you revealed some at the prep call with me, things happening in Japan.
Thank you, Marta. Yes, I would like to, and I also actually checked with the partner we're working with, and they're in the room today, and they said, yes, you can reveal. So, first of all, with innovation, it doesn't come from one company alone. It's about the collaboration and the partnership and the deep trust in each other. And this is also how we say we have products and we want to find solutions together. And one very super interesting project in Japan, which might even give inspiration to other countries, is a project that Nexco East is now working on the highways and for the future autonomous driving. Imagine you have a car in the future without a driver. What happens if it's an obstacle in the road? So how can we prepare and having systems prepared and checked? And it's not something you do on the drawing only. So we're setting up a proof of concept, so POC, and that's the way we use to work. And then to see how this can then give us data points and insights back, and then contributing to that future we're going to. So that's a really strong example, and it comes also with, it's not only private companies, also when it comes, even with governmental, it can have these forces behind. So together we can do anything, alone it's just a dot on the...
Together we can do everything. I'm hearing kumbaya in the back of my head, but that's wonderful. Christian, it's not all that easy though, because you're balancing also the big visions versus what customer want to buy now. How do you navigate that tension?
Yeah, so for example, earlier today we organized a sustainability seminar here for our customer base in Japan. It was a couple of weeks ago in Denmark. Doing the same thing, we call it Drive the Shift seminars, where we sit together, not just us supplier and them customers or partners, but then we bring in the grid operators, the charging operators, the banks, because it's also about financing much more capex and less opex, and sometimes transport buyers, such as IKEA for instance, and have a discussion around the table what can be done. And then we always leave with a lot of energy and self-confidence, because then we see the possibilities. But when we meet just one-on-one or sit in our silos, that's where the doubts are coming. And that's where you start to blame kind of the others.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that's one method that we used to go about. But of course we are very vocal. When you started the seminar, you rightfully said a lot of people are kind of losing faith.
Yeah.
And we take lots of leaps of faith and we talk about it in order to kind of give courage to others. And then we are super self-critical. We don't manage everything. We still keep failing, but at least we continue the drive. And we're very proud of doing that. So even if you don't reach your 100% promise that you made and you feel bad about it, don't feel bad about it. Talk about it, learn from it, and put up a new target that you work hard against. That motivation will stay in the organization and hopefully in what we call the ecosystem.
Lots of nodding here, but you mentioned finance. So I know Corporate Action Japan, but I do take your background in finance here at Takuchi-san. When you think about these companies, the dialogue on stage, would it be companies you would be happily investing in, or is there a question you wish more people, companies would ask themselves that they're looking towards transitioning towards sustainable mobility?
Yeah, my simple answer is yes, I will definitely invest.
300 witnesses again.
But I have a condition.
Here comes the final print.
Of course. First, technology like Axis, it's a very big contribution for the future mobility, not just decarbonization, but the community sustainability. In Japan, we are facing the labor shortage, especially driver, and also the population in the rural area. So it will help for the autonomous driving and the some future driving, so future mobility. So definitely it's a value creation company, but from the investor point of view, it needs to be translated in the commercial value in a sense. Investors have carry the stewardship responsibility for pension or beneficiary or like that. So not just sustainability, but it needs to be transformed or translated into commercial value. So in that sense, collaboration with the value chain is very encouraging. So I would like to see the very credible transition plan or a plan to achieve the targets. With that, I will definitely invest.
Thank you, Takuchi-san. You look excited about providing those plans. In one sentence, if possible, we talk a lot about the things we need to start doing. Sometimes we need to maybe ask ourselves, what do we need to stop doing?
I'll have a give it a go to keep it moving. I think going back to the silo thinking, and also stop thinking only of trucks and vans when you think zero emission deliveries. We have great examples of tuk-tuks in India, a boat down the Seine. Paris is now 85–86% zero emission delivery, and it's not just e-vehicles, it's looking at cargo bikes and boats together with vans. So holistic approach instead of silos.
Stop the silos, systems. Christian, that was your word, systems.
But I would stop making the best the enemy of the good. So like here in Japan, okay, the grid is not strong enough. Okay, we cannot wait for electrification to come into place. What is second? Biofuels. Let's use that as a bridging technology. It's not perfect, but it's good. It's much better than fossil.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Takuchi-san, Karen, Christian, Nina. Thank you so much for giving us very practical, concrete win cases. Well done. Thank you so much. Maybe the guests, as they leave, can look here. I'm going to ask a little bit of a improvisation here. Your fans, would you also invest in these companies? Yellow, yes. Blue, no. Would you invest in these companies? Yes. Okay, lots of yellows. Well done. I think that was your sort of graduation mark here. Fantastic. All right. 2 sessions, and then a third on net zero healthcare. But before that, let the art inspire us. So I would like to welcome back on stage Sara Ainak with a song performed in Sami called Biekkolmai. Please welcome Sara on stage.
Thank you for listening to me. Piekolmai is the Sami god of the wind, and he lives far away in a mountain where he shuffles the wind back and forward. And when you are talking about sustainability, don't forget that sustainability is when indigenous people can live traditional lives on their traditional lands.
Thank you, Sara Ainak and Johan Vornberg. We're going to move into a very concrete case, net zero healthcare, that I think, I don't know, I'm pretty environmentally conscious, I like to think, but it's been a real eye-opener for me. Never really thought about the emissions of the care that I have received. And I suspect I'm not alone. I'd like to invite to the stage, to set the scene, on net zero healthcare by a founder of the Pioneer the Possible platform, AstraZeneca, that has really shown how it is to go beyond pushing an entire industry and then also fueling out into industries that will serve mobility and circular living, having invested a lot in electrical vehicles and renewable energy. AstraZeneca is one of those Swedish corporate jewels, also from the UK, 90,000 employees, pharmaceutical company, but one of the most maybe successful in Japan, having been here for 50 years. So with us is the president and representative of AstraZeneca Japan. Please welcome to the stage Takafumi Odi. Welcome. Net zero healthcare. What is it? Why does it matter?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me and our company. So the net healthcare is something we do care about, but if oftentimes overlooked even in our healthcare sector. And then it is because it's coming from the other some contradiction, which I described now. So the healthcare obviously save lives, but at the same time, now the way we deliver this healthcare, it's actually also created a lot of carbon emission. So that's the reason why this actually threatened and damaged the people, particularly in a very vulnerable people. So that's actually, this contradiction actually made us really make this topic very urgent, really resolve.
Thank you. And the healthcare sector in Japan emits 5.5 of the emissions in Japan, CO2, if I understand correctly.
Yeah. So we actually represent around 4 to 5% of the carbon emission across the entire Japan carbon emission.
So not insignificant.
Yeah.
So there's this moral dilemma that I think goes again here when we do bets on prosperity, provide care, and the impact that it has, and the moral dilemma that it's sort of the care that we give impacts vulnerable people. But how is this dilemma, you think, fundamentally different from, let's say, mobility? We make transportation easier, but then we provide emissions that impact the health of others. So how is this different in net zero in the healthcare industry?
Sure. So I think when it comes to the details, I leave it to the Dr. Yamamoto's presentation later, because he has this amazing knowledge and then probably explain better than me. But I can just touch on some commonalities. So we have a lot of commonalities to resolve, such as we discussed earlier. How can we reduce our carbon to transform our energy to the green? We have a more collaboration. How can we decarbonize our supply chain with a partnership? So we have a lot of things we can do together. So that's what we are thinking now.
Yeah, and as founders of Pioneer the Possible platform to enable this cross-value collaboration. Now, if we unveil a little bit the Japanese-Swedish superpower, I think a lot of us look towards you, having been here for 50 years, not you, but AstraZeneca. What is the tip for making it work for people in the audience considering to deepen their ties?
Sure. So I think there is obvious, very strong influence from Sweden and then also British influence to really focusing and driving our sustainability efforts. But at the same time, we feel we have a lot of common values we share between Sweden and Japan, such as to cultivating a more open discussion atmosphere, and also challenge the status quo, which actually allows us to really create the innovative solution to resolve some complex problem, like what we are doing today.
Yes.
So that's what we are doing.
Thank you. And we heard from participants on stage before as well, the openness, the discussion, the collaboration, and also congratulations on the Nobel Prize of Medicine, which was mentioned by Her Royal Highness before, Professor Shimon Sakaguchi in medicine. Wow, again, a fantastic element of the superpower. Okay, so thank you so much. I think you've set the stage well on why we should listen to net zero healthcare and why it matters. And I hope if we meet in 5 years in Riyadh, the next World Expo, I hope some of the friendships here today have made us net zero healthcare happen already in 5 years. Let's hope.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Hori-san. So we're gonna unpack firstly the impact between the healthcare sector and climate change, and then we're gonna also do a reverse. We also wanna hear about how climate change impacts the healthcare. And as we're gonna see, we're gonna end up in an interesting or quite scary vicious cycle. Healthcare sector, the health we provide, provides emissions that needs more healthcare for vulnerable people, then in the end provides more need for healthcare. You see where I'm going here? Yes. So first off, we're going to hear from Dr. Takanori Yamamoto, who is Chief of Department of Emergency Medicine at Nagoya University, unpacking the first part of this cycle. And then we will hear from Dr. Ki Nagai, who is specialized in kidney diseases, and we'll use that as a case to show this link between climate change and our health, and then back to the needs for even more healthcare. So to start off, please help me welcome on stage Dr. Yamamoto Sensei.
Thank you so much. It's a profound honor to present our work in your presence today at this Vital Sweden Japan Sustainability Summit here at the OSAP Expo. Today I will share our journey to understand the climate impact of healthcare in Japan, and starting with a paradoxical discovery from our published research, and then exploring two revolutions in care delivery that we believe are the key to a truly sustainable future. My journey began with a deep 11-year analysis of my own institution, Nagoya University Hospital, the findings of which we have published. Before showing our results, it's important to understand the previous. Okay. This first figure is a conceptual diagram explaining the GHG protocol. Scope 1 represents direct emissions from sources we own, like burning gas in our facilities. Scope 2 is indirect emissions from purchased energy, mainly our electricity. And Scope 3 is the most complex category, is all other indirect emissions that occur in our value chain, especially from the products and services we purchase, our supply chain. Understanding these three is key to seeing the full picture. What's important is that healthcare may account for 5 to 10% of the world's total carbon footprint. Now let's look at the next page. Let's look at the data from our 11-year study. This second figure tells the entire story. The top graph, part A, shows our hospital's total carbon footprint over time. Despite efforts to be more efficient, you can see this line increased by a staggering 26% over the decade. The bottom graph, part B, shows why. It breaks down the emissions by scope. You can see that emissions from scopes 1 and 2 remained flat or even decreased. However, the line for scope 3 rose relentlessly year after year. This taught us a crucial lesson. The biggest part of our climate problem was not the energy we use, but the products we buy. This discovery led us to our next phase of research and to a broader vision for the future. For the remainder of my talk, I will not be using figures, as I like to focus on your attention on the concepts that emerged from this powerful evidence. Whilst we confirmed our initial findings with a new multi-hospital study, it showed that while university hospitals have a higher footprint. This is because the carbon footprint per severely ill patient is much higher. But the universal truth remains over 70% of all emissions comes from the supply chain. So while tackling Scope 3 is essential, it is not the only solution. We believe there are two other revolutions that can reduce the emissions we create ourselves, our Scope 1 and 2 footprint. The first revolution is in how we view the hospital. In Western countries, the average length of stay for acute care is now under 6 days. But in Japan, it's around 14. For 2 weeks, 1,000-bed hospital is a high-carbon hotel, consuming electricity, gas, and food, and generating waste. Advances in medical technology now allow even severely ill patients to return home or to care facilities sooner. By embracing a hospital-at-home model, we dramatically reduce this hotel function. Don't you want to go to your house furnished with IKEA? The second revolution is one we are pioneering: medical mobility as a service, or medical mass. It's time to shift from an era of going to the clinic to an era where the clinic comes to you. We have already developed a vehicle, a modified HiAce, a Toyota HiAce, equipped with portable ultrasound, compact ECGs, and even a drone that can launch from its roof. This mobile clinic, which we unveiled at the Expo 20th anniversary, a similar connection to our event here at the Osaka Expo today, and was inspected by Minister Rusia Kazawa, the minister in charge of the new Japan Disaster Prevention Agency. It's a feature of preventive care. It fuses digital transformation, DX, green transformation, and mobility experience. By making healthcare building free and bringing it directly into homes, we can use data-driven monitoring to prevent severe illness in the first place through primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. And as our research shows, preventing severe illness is one of the most powerful ways to reduce high carbon hospitalizations. This vision is a necessity for Japan. Our rural areas face rapid depopulation and an aging society. Local clinics are closing, creating a vicious cycle of delayed care that leads to severe illness and high carbon emissions in urban centers. Medical mass is the answer. Here at this summit, a unique opportunity, Japan, an automotive powerhouse, is pioneering these new models. And Sweden is a global leader in welfare innovation and environmental stewardship. And of course, we must not forget Sweden is a nation with the technological prowess to build what is known as the world's safest car, Volvo. We believe that working hand in hand, our medical communities can do two things. First, combine Swedish expertise in sustainable systems with Japanese mobility technology to perfect these new care models. And second, we can work together to set new standards for sustainable procurement, sending a powerful unified message to the global supply chain that change is necessary. We extend an open invitation to our Swedish partners to join us in building this future. Thank you.
I'm Kei Naga from Tsukuba University. I'd like to talk in front of you in Japanese. Translate, please. 私は腎臓内科学というのをやっていまして、腎臓に関わる診療をしています。腎臓というのはいろんな臓器があると思うんですが、他に心臓、肝臓といったようにその臓器の寿命があります。機能としては、余計な水分、塩分、ゴミを体外に排出するために尿を作ることにあります。ただその腎臓は実は140年間ぐらい持つとは言われています。しかし余計な塩分を取ったり食べ過ぎたり糖分をいっぱい取ったりすると、その腎臓が早くに力をなくなってしまう。これを慢性腎臓病 CKD というふうに言います。この腎臓で起きていることと地球に起きていることがもし共通することがあるとすれば、それは地球の寿命が人間の数とそして環境の侵害度によって決められているということです。もし環境を破壊するような行為をし続けるのであれば、そして人口が増え続けるのであれば、プラネタリーバウンダリー、地球の許容量を超えて地球に住めなくなってしまうということがあると思います。Could you please show us the next, please? Thank you. そして腎臓とその地球の関連性について考えてみたいと思います。右上のスクリーンのフィギュアを見ていただきたいんですけれども、もし地球が温暖化した場合、皆さんにどういうことが起こるかというと、すでに経験されている人はいるかもしれません。あるいは砂漠に行ったらそんな経験をするかもしれませんが、尿が出なくなると思います。あるいは減るかもしれない。そうなった時に起こることは、体に水と水分がたまる、あるいはゴミがたまって毒素により苦しめられるということがあるかもしれない。それは CKD が悪くなるというサイクルに入るわけです。下の方に行きますと、その働かなくなった腎臓に対して何をするか。透析療法という人工腎臓を使って血液をきれいにする必要があります。この血液透析、患者さんが毎回週に3回通院する必要があって、年間でいくと163回程度です。非常に多い病院に通院することに必要なんですが、血液のゴミをどのようにこし取るかというと、大量の水に移し取ることになります。その大量の水というのはおよそ350リットル、風呂桶1杯分になります。そのような大量の水を使うし、機械を運転するのに電気をたくさん使います。そしてその透析の膜はプラスチック、石油由来でできてますので、多大なカーボンフットプリントを費やすことになる。その結果として地球温暖化が進行するのであれば、また CKD が増えてしまうという負の連鎖にあります。こういったことに立ち向かっているのは腎臓内科医でありますが、悲観してばかりではいけないと思います。これからその方策、今後何を考えるかということを提示したいと思います。下にあります血液透析というのは、実は日本では 97% の腎臓が悪い方に適用されていて、およそ35万人やっているんですけれども、ごく一部に昔からやられている、その液をお腹に溜めて出す。これによってゴミをこし取ることができます。そういった腹膜透析という治療が一つのカーボンをフットプリントを削減する力になるかもしれない。あるいは腎移植。腎臓は左右に2つあるこのような形をした臓器です。1つがあれば人間は少なくても70年生きることができますので、誰かのために、愛する人のためにもう1つ差し上げるというこの生体腎移植、海外ではかなり行われてますが、もちろんスウェーデンも含めて、ただ日本での普及率はまだまだと言っていいと思います。ですので透析のやり方、移植というのは一つの解決策。そして血液透析自体は必ず必要になるものですから、それにしても左側にありますように再生可能エネルギーを使う、そして透析液を無駄にしない、プラスチックを再利用する、こういったグリーンダイアライシス、環境に配慮した透析方法をするというのが大切だと思います。そして3つ目、最も大切なのはその CKD、病気になる方を減らすということになると思います。日本には優れた健康診断をするシステムがあります。ほぼ全員の国民が健康診断を受けるというような国は他にないと思います。その結果をもってかかりつけの先生、GP、そして専門医、そして行政の人が一斉に協力し合うことによってですね、その CKD を早期発見、治療、医療の近典化をすることで CKD の人口を減らすことができると思います。こういった研究のスキーム、臨床のスキームはインパクト CKD と申しまして、アストラゼネカ社が今進めているプロジェクトの概要になります。こうした活動を含めまして、最後プラネタリーヘルス、地球と腎臓あるいは人間を健康を両立するという活動の結果になると思います。そういった夢を持ちながら医療の現場で我々もいつも頑張っていこうと思っています。以上です。ありがとうございます。
Can you hear me? There we are. Yellow fans, if this was news to you. Blue side, if this was old news. Yellow, new to you. I was suspecting that, right? Quite eye-opening. So we've heard from academia what the problem is. Now we're going to listen to industry of what are some innovations that come when we look at net zero healthcare. I would like to start by inviting Takahiko Iwaya, who is Managing Director of Sanofi, along with Motohiko Kimura, Vice President of the Brachytherapy and Neuroscience Business Line at Swedish Elekta. Please join me on stage. All right, I think we should start with you, Iwaya-san, because you're also chair of the EFPIA Japan, Japanese branch of the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Associations. That was the long. Representing the pharma industry in Japan. What are some of the priorities that you see in Japan transitioning to net zero healthcare?
Yes, thank you very much, first of all. Yes, I am working for Sanofi. Sanofi is a French company and headquartered in Paris. And also I'm chairing, the EFPIA, that is European Pharmaceutical Association in Japan. So I want to talk a little bit about my company first, then talk about the industry effort. First of all, I was very happy that you know the mission of my company.
Advancing miracles of science,
so,
something like that?
Yes, sure. So it is chasing the miracle of science to improve people's life. To achieve this mission, we integrated sustainability strategy into our business strategy because it's a very fundamental part of our business strategy. So Sanofi is aiming at zero emission by 2045 and carbon neutral by 2030. In Japan, to achieve that aspiration, we are working throughout the patient journey. We are thinking about how we can reduce those carbon emissions, as well as how we can reduce the burden on the environment. For example, we are trying to redesign our product package, not using like blisters, like plastics. And as well, we are actually developing applications which enables the patients to stay at home, as Dr. Elon said, to go to hospital, clinic, and hospitalized. That will be a much more burden on the environment. So we developed the app to enable the patients to stay at home, like self-injection of some of the products, so that we can reduce the burden of patients as well as the burden on the environment. So those are the things we are doing as a company, and at the same time as an industry, we are trying to contribute to this, the aspiration. So we recognize the majority of emission, for example, Sanofi, is coming from the supply chain, including mobility. And so we are working very hard with the partners. It is like distributors or the logistical partners or more upstream providers. Those people with us need to work collaboratively. Otherwise, it's very difficult for one single company to reduce those, the carbon emissions in a kind of broader meanings. So we are joining Japan Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association, JPMA. That is more broader in Japan Pharmaceutical Association. And we are working in the environmental committee. And then JPMA last year sent an engagement letter to the stakeholders asking for their collaboration to work together with us to reduce those the emissions. But the reality is, it's kind of in a mixed reaction. Some of them are still just wondering where to start. Or, for example, that we already talked about the EV availability in Japan, or infrastructure challenges. All those things actually contributed for them to kind of wonder how they can collaborate. So this year in return, we are now working with the Ministry of Environment to start the model business case, how we can work together with those stakeholders. So I hope that these activities drive us in a better situation for the environment in the future.
And 11 companies joining that project.
12 companies.
12 actually now, okay. Another one since last time. Interesting, so something to follow. And you mentioned preventative healthcare at home as well. One of those maybe ridiculous things that getting better healthcare could be at home, but actually, yes, that could be true. And that leads me to you, Kimura-san, because that's also a hard issue of Elekta, no? Yeah? Would you share a bit about your vision at Elekta for... you need to probably have a bit closer.
So just introducing my company.
Maybe resting on the...
All right, so
yeah, there we go.
Elekta is a Swedish company, yeah, and we are focusing on the neurosurgery and the radiosurgery for the cancer care. Yeah? And as Dr. Moto and Iwaya-san also mentioned that, Elekta provide, of course, the latest technology for the cancer care, but also trying to be kind enough for the environment, of course. But at the same time, we wanna send patient home as quick as possible, right? Because this will help, a lot of energy savings when the patient hospitalized. In a traditional radiation therapy, the conventional radiation therapies, usually patients receive 30 sessions of radiation therapy because the technology was not great in the past. But today's technology advancement that Elekta is also contributing. We are providing a patient for like 5 sessions with a higher dose because the technology is more accurate. We can deliver higher dose to the cancer cells, right? So we can send the patient to home much earlier. And that means patients don't have to commute the hospital 30 times like in the past. I think this is also helping the environment as well. But this is not just the environment, sustainability for their social life as well. The patient can go home and they can continue work for their everyday life. So that's how we are trying to contribute to the society as Elekta.
And I've heard of preventative healthcare and I've heard of precision healthcare as the basic sort of shifts in healthcare, but I always thought it was only from a sort of better care perspective, but not knowing that it was having such an amazing impact on sustainability. So
sure.
Beautiful. Thanks for highlighting that. And also, you said you're not really an expert in sustainability. You're a salesperson, but your sort of holistic view of how to look at things from a client perspective and consumer perspective has led to some of the innovations at Elekta.
Right. Again, like I said, Masa, I'm not a specialist for this environmental sustainability stuff. But at the end of the day, we are always looking at the patient, right, as a company. And we are always looking how can we help the patient in their daily life. And that will also connect it to the society environment. So that's how we are engaging to this specific topic.
Just proves to show how sustainability is too important to be left to the sustainability experts alone. I'd like to hear from Yamamoto Sensei and Nagai Sensei on when you hear some of the ambitions and actual implementations here from the industry. How does that align with your visions for the future of healthcare? Briefly in a couple of sentences.
日本の政治家がよく国際会議で言い訳でですね、性格を消すために日本語で喋らせていただこうと思うんですが、やっぱりまずは医療業界、最初のお話でもありましたけれども、医療業界っていうのがかなりカーボンフットプリントを出しているんだということをまず我々が自覚しなければいけないということが一つですね。で、その上で、人を助けてるんだからどれだけ、CO2 を出してもいいんだという開き直りをまず捨てるということが大事だと思います。で、じゃあどうすればいいかということですが、やっぱり予防医療に勝るものはないということなんですね。 COVID-19 パンデミックの時の、我々の病院のカーボンフットプリントを調べてみたんですけれども、患者さんの数は減ってたんですけれども、要するにパンデミックがあるので、他の心筋梗塞とかですね、他の感染症はみんなロックダウンしているので減っていくんですね。しかしながら、カーボンフットプリントは増えていた。なぜならば、COVID-19 の人たちはみんなシビアイルネスになってしまうからなんですね。つまり、アストラゼネカさんが来てるから言うわけじゃありませんけれども、バクシネーションっていうのがここではとても大事だということがよく分かりました。つまり予防が一番大事だということです。まず一つはそれで、もう一つはやっぱりさっきの話でも僕ホスピタルアットホームの話をしましたが、ホスピタルアットホームの非常にシンボリックなピクチャーっていうのをですね、5年ぐらい前にニューヨークタイムズで見たんですね。でそれは何かっていうと、普通だったら我々のようなインテンシブケアユニットにいるような患者さんが、家で、治療をされている。その時にですね、ベッドの上に大きな可愛いですね犬がいるんです。つまり病院でどれだけ親身になってケアをしてもやっぱり自分のペットと一緒にいることはできないんですね。だからやっぱりホスピタルアットホームをやるっていうことはその患者さんのコンフォータブルな感じにもなっていくということで、いろんなことを合わせて考えていくっていう解決策が大事じゃないかなと思います。
Thank you. Nagai Sensei, couple briefly, deep and brief.
Okay, I know. 腹膜透析は自宅でできる透析の方法で家で治療することを選ぶ人を増えることだと思います。それには高い医療のリテラシーが必要です。少し難しいからです。ですので国民全員が医療のことをよく勉強して自分で治療の選択ができるようにしたいと思っています。
Thank you. That was deep and brief. Thank you so much. But I understand you touched about the moral dilemma here. But I'm going to ask the same question as I asked Hori-san to you. If we meet again in Riyadh at the next World Expo in 5 years, have we reached net zero healthcare? And also to you, Moto, deep and brief.
Yes, you know that 5 years we will see a very different world. That's what we are aiming at.
Yeah.
We need to make a big transformational change, but I think that it's very important first we believe it and take actions.
We need to believe it in order for it to happen. Moto.
Sure. So now I said a 30 session to the 5 session, but I think within a few years' time, it's going to be like 3 sessions to maybe the 1 single session that a patient can go home quickly. But at the same time, when I came here at the National Day of Sweden in May, as Professor Yamanaka mentioned that the immunotherapy, cell transplantation is now being advancing. Maybe not the 5 years, but the 10 years. Maybe the radiation therapy, like the devices, maybe not necessary to cure the patient. Those new technologies, even maybe the chemotherapy can cure the patient without having us, unfortunately.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What I'm reminded of, and also there's a 3D printed heart somewhere here at the World Expo, so it's going to be interesting to see what we showcase in the next. What I'm reminded of is the power of diversity, not only academia and industry, but also background, sales into sustainability. And I know you're interested in having also collaborations across healthcare into mobility and circular living. So hopefully lots of notes to share and business cards to exchange with the likes up here stage. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. Right, 3 sessions. I am happy I don't have to conclude all of the beautiful findings and insights from today. I will leave that to no other than the CEO of Business Sweden, Jan Larsson. Good luck wrapping up all of the fantastic discussions we've had on stage today. Good luck, Jan.
And now it's on. I was going to take the easy way out and tell you all that the Crown Princess is waiting at the reception, so I will be very short. But it would be, I think, a bad thing to end this without at least making a few reflections for your and my memory that we bring with us from this afternoon. I am really, really happy that I have attended this afternoon. I have learned so much and I have gained so much inspiration. But now it is time to close this party, both this summit and also the huge party of the Expo 2025 in Osaka. We created the Pioneer the Possible platform in Japan 5 years ago as a platform to overcome shared challenges together. And I think that today we have seen that it has grown into a true collaboration format with our Japanese partners. We have turned the idea and the dialogue into concrete projects and big impact. Today's discussions on sustainability have highlighted the very best of Swedish-Japanese collaboration. First, we ended up with a healthcare section where we are shown that healthcare saves lives every hour, every second, but at the same time creates emissions that threaten the health of thousands. Japanese studies showed that supplies and energy dominate that footprint. AstraZeneca raised the bar on Scope 3 emissions. Nagoya and Tsukuba universities showed the links between climate and disease, and Elekta showed us advanced cancer treatment that requires less hospitalization and will reduce carbon emissions. The next steps is to pilot net zero care pathways in Japan, greener supply chains, climate smart hospitals, reimbursement that rewards lower carbon and shorter hospitalization. We learned that mobility must be transformed across the entire value chain. Steel, components, vehicles, logistics, driving, everything needs to become climate smart if we are to have a chance to reach net zero. And there are solutions. It is possible. SSAB's decarbonized steel, Scania's next generation vehicles, circular components, Axis-enabled smart traffic flows, and last mile innovations. The solutions are here. The challenges are obvious. Now it's time to match them together and make them real. And Christian, what I did mean was not that time of innovation has ended. What I did mean is that the big scientific breakthroughs have been done. We know how to get carbon dioxide emissions down. We know how to solve the problems. We just need to make it happen. And I am also very hopeful that Sweden-Japan mobility coalitions will do just that, help linking low emission materials to production, optimize the infrastructure to logistics, and align targets to policies. And we also heard that people want to live circularly, but they need systems that make the right choice also the easy choice. Today's discussion showed that thoughtful product design, robust recycling systems, and supportive policy together form a winning triangle. The carton value chain from Tetra Pak through Aeon to Coralex proved how powerful it is when every link takes joint responsibility. So thank you everyone at stage for sharing, and thank you everyone in the audience for taking part of this summit and connecting at the breaks. The Sweden-Japan partnership is unique, and it is you who form and build and develop that partnership. As I believe you say in Japan, onaji kama no meshi oku. We have eaten the rice from the same pot, and there is no finer way to build relationships. Arigato.
Well done, Jan. That was fantastic wrap-up of the conversation on stage. I'm going to just end up with a bit of practical notes because now we have little under 30 minutes to head over to the Nordic Pavilion. You can scan this QR code and you will get the maps for how to get there, but you can also follow our colleagues with Swedish flags, and we ask you please to walk swiftly. Leave the translators here, please, and then when it comes to the actual Nordic Pavilion, when you're there, look at the right corner of your name badge. If you have the blue dot, we ask you to go at the right entrance on the 3rd floor. And if you have the yellow dot, the left entrance on the 1st floor. Make sure your badges are visible because there's security staff that wants to see them. And the reception will continue around until 8:30 p.m. Now, thank you so much for pioneering the possible and joining Team Sweden on diving into 3 quite hard topics. But if we make strides here, we are well on our way to reaching the agreements at a supranational level, but also maybe some spiritual internal contracts we made with ourselves and each other. Hope this day will be a landmark in our path forward. Thank you for pioneering the possible.